Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my first impressions review, I guess you could call it. Um, my initial thoughts basically on Pokemon Legends Arceus. So, I had been very excited for this game pretty much since it was announced, because it was taking Pokemon in a completely new direction. Obviously, the initial reveal reminded a lot of people of Breath of the Wild and similar games. And although the final game tends to, according to some people, be more like Monster Hunter, and I have to take their word on that because I've never actually played a Monster Hunter game. It still it still kind of scratches that same itch. So, for those who don't know, Pokemon Legends Arceus is a semi-open world game in which you go around as a Pokemon researcher and have to fill out the Pokédex in ancient times, basically. Not quite ancient, but you know what I mean. Olden days. And basically make the first catalog of Pokemon research within the old Sinnoh region, which at the time was known as the Hisui region. Without getting too much into spoilers or anything, the story is not what I expected. Like, I don't fully know what I expected going into this, but when I booted up the game and started the story and everything, like almost right away, it caught me entirely off guard. For those of you who have played it or seen a Let's Play of it, because there's quite a few of those already out, um, you'll know what I'm talking about. It just catches you so off guard with what the story actually is that it's like, oh, you're doing that. But at the same time, it works. It makes it work. It makes it feel fresh and new to this franchise. And you start to play and everything, start to meet these characters, start to experience the different way things work, different mechanics than you're used to with other Pokemon games, and it's really refreshing because it's like I'm not one of those people who hates on the newer generation Pokemon and everything. I actually love the newer generations, and I like it when the games shake things up. That's one of my biggest positives about these newer generations, shaking certain things up, like how Generation 7 took away the concept of gyms and did something completely different with that, for example. I like it when game franchises that are super popular and have been around for a long time and are so known, especially for a very distinct formula, can do something different that is still good and still makes it feel like the same franchise, just fresh and new. And that's what Legends Arceus definitely does. It makes it feel fresh and new again. So I'm going to just give a brief outline of my thoughts on the different facets of this game without going too much into spoilers because, again, I don't want to spoil this for you guys, and I just think that this game is definitely a better experience. So let's start with kind of the Gyarados in the room, I guess you could say, and talk about the graphics because this is a thing that is very divisive, it seems, but mostly a lot of people seem to lean towards the negative with it. And my opinion here might be unpopular or it might just be in the minority in general, but I think the graphics look great. I'm not expecting a Pokemon game to look like Breath of the Wild. And honestly, I don't want it to. I'm not expecting a Pokemon game to look like a lot of these higher graphic, higher quality looking games, even on the Switch. I don't expect it to, and I don't want it to. Pokemon has a very specific style to it and a very specific visual representation that I feel is better suited for this kind of appearance. And no matter what, it still looks better than any other Pokemon game before it. That's undeniable. graphically speaking, it is better than anything that's come before it. I think it looks fantastic because honestly, it looks as best as it's ever been and as good as it needs to be. But people just put graphics on such a high pedestal when talking about video games that they automatically just think that all video games must have the highest quality graphics or the game is shit. Graphics are honestly one of the least important aspects of a game, if we're being honest. Some of the better games out there, some of the most popular and most world renowned games out there, still have pretty low graphics. I mean, look at Minecraft. No matter what you think of the game, you can't deny it is one of the most influential and biggest games ever. And the graphics are not that great with it. They're very simplistic. But it's got a certain style to it that it works with. Other really renowned games like Super Meat Boy. I know, kind of a random example, but it's a really popular game. People love Super Meat Boy. The graphics are really simple because they don't need to be anything more. And the same goes for Legends Arceus and just Pokemon games in general. But people think that just because it's 2022, just because the Nintendo Switch can handle better graphics and all, every game should automatically have that. And that's like, no. Like, from just a pure creative standpoint, that's not a good idea. You need to have different graphical styles, different graphical qualities even, to keep up the creativity in the industry. Is it awesome when games can have amazing lifelike graphics and everything? Of course. But again, this does what it needs to do. It looks nice, it's very pretty, the scenery is great, it does what it needs to do. So, another thing that people have talked about with this game is the world itself. Some people say it feels very empty, and these are probably the same people who said the same thing about Breath of the Wild. And in both cases, it is completely false. It is just pure bullshit. The world in Legends Arceus is very full of stuff to do. You can't walk almost anywhere without finding a Pokemon. And you're always doing something. You never feel like you're bored because there's always something to do and you're incentivized to do things. One big example of this, again, without going into much detail or spoilers or anything, this is the only Pokemon game of the entire franchise that actually incentivizes you to catch them all. It is the single only Pokemon game where that is actually valid. All other Pokemon games, catching them all doesn't really do anything. I think you get like an in-game key item that's basically like a certificate or something. It doesn't do anything. It's not worth it. That's the only thing it does. In this game, catching them all is actually a part of the story. It's actually actively important. Not to mention it incentivizes you because continuously catching new Pokemon or even the same Pokemon multiple times allows you to unlock different things and allows you to progress in the story. It's actually something that is useful gameplay wise. And no other Pokemon game has done this. So it's the only time where I actually want to catch all the Pokemon that are available. Because again, it incentivizes me to do so. But speaking of gameplay, the gameplay's great. Like, it controls really well. Like, everything that is new to how you do things is very, like, just believable. Like, the way you handle situations and all, like you've seen in the trailers, you run around the world and you throw Pokeballs like that. You don't have to do it in battle. You just throw Pokeballs at the Pokemon in the wild, and it's like, it's so good how that handles, how it controls. It feels natural, and Like, even when you miss, it feels like, oh, I missed that. The game's not fucking me over. I missed that. And you get better at it over time, too. You can genuinely improve on your aim and accuracy, just like with a shooter game, I guess. Um, and as you continue to play, you get some new mechanics and stuff, and they take a little getting used to at first, but you get a hang of them. And they all just work. They fit into this world, they fit into the game, everything works together. And certain things you have to adjust for, and that's fine. The story itself, again, I won't go into spoilers, but is pretty investing. Like, you get very interested in what's going on. The characters as well, like, you just really like them. The characters are very personable and likable, and honestly, the most recent generations have been doing this really well in making the characters feel more like people rather than, characters, NPCs, basically. A lot of the older generations, most of the, honestly, main franchise has had characters that just feel like NPCs. They don't really have a lot of personality to them, especially in the very first couple generations. Not that they don't have any, they just don't have a lot. And they don't feel like real people. They feel like characters in a game. But in the recent generations, they've been given so much personality and depth to them that they feel like people. And this game definitely carries that in as well. All of these characters are believable. They all have set personalities. They all feel like they're actually reacting and interacting with everything in a believable way. And you genuinely grow to like them. You genuinely like learn to enjoy seeing them interact and react to things. Or in the cases of some characters, maybe even you enjoy hating them because they're not really the best of people. But that's the point, and that's what you're supposed to feel. Um, and I think that's just a real good testament to how much effort was put into this game. And it's kind of funny because I've seen quite a few people on Twitter saying stuff like, "Oh, so this is where all the effort went to, not in the Diamond and Pearl remakes, but into this game." And it's like, that's kind of funny because the Diamond and Pearl remakes are one by one remakes. They're practically no different than just plain Diamond or Pearl, with maybe a couple small changes, but that don't actually amount to anything. They didn't actually make any real changes like previous remakes have done. Um, and then again, as these people have been saying on Twitter, all of the effort has been put into this game, and so much has been put into it. And you can play for a long, long time, hours and hours and hours, and still be very early into the game and its story, because it just facilitates that kind of play. Um, and I love that this game has a crafting system as well. Again, as shown in the trailers, the crafting system is really intuitive and really feels right. Like everything, all the materials you get to craft different items, it feels like you get them in the right amounts. The items that you obviously are going to need more of, like Pokeballs, you get the materials for that in greater amounts and a lot easier. But then items that you could say in some ways are more important, or just items that are much more valuable, like revives, those ones you won't get the materials for as easily, and therefore won't be able to make as much of. And that feels right. That feels completely right in the grand scheme of things. It also makes you want to explore and search for materials much more, because you're going to want to find as much as you can to make as much as you can. And you can buy items, of course, as well. But honestly, it feels more satisfying to craft them yourself. Um, it really does. Like, I wouldn't think that it actually would be as effective at that, but it is. It 100% is. The music, like in any Pokemon game, is great. It's great music. Um, Not really much else to say there. But another thing I've noticed people talking about online has been voice acting. Because people have been saying, like, Pokemon, at this point in 2022, there's no excuse for not having voice acting. And I've been seeing this from quite a few people on Twitter and stuff, and it's like, why? Not every game needs voice acting, believe it or not. Can voice acting help? Sure. Like, even for, like, Breath of the Wild, the first Zelda game with it, it's like, it was cool. But was it necessary? No. They could have had no voice acting in that, outside of, the typical Legend of Zelda, like grunts and noises, basically. And it would have been fine. It would have still been just as great of a game. And Pokemon just, it doesn't need it. I really don't feel like it would honestly fit with its aesthetic and just overall tone and whatnot. I feel like it would kind of be distracting a little bit. Um, I really just don't think it's needed, honestly. And overall, just this game is just really fun. Like every new thing you encounter, you encounter Hisuian regional variants, you encounter alpha Pokemon, you encounter all this great stuff, and it's like every time you encounter something new like that, it's like exciting. Every time you reach another part of the areas and you find a Pokemon you hadn't seen yet, it's exciting. Even if it's like a Pokemon you're not altogether interested in and never have been, it's still exciting because it's like it's something new, and again, you're incentivized to get it anyway. um, so it's just really well done. Honestly, my first impressions for Legends Arceus couldn't be better. I think that this is genuinely a great step forward for this series, for this franchise. And it does exactly what it needs to do. And so far, from where I'm at least, it feels honestly just completely right. Um, but I would love to hear your thoughts. So tell me down in the comments below if you have played or seen someone play Pokemon Legends Arceus. What did you think of it? And as always, no spoilers, because I'm not done with the game. I'm not done with the story or anything. I'm still going through with it. And I don't want to be spoiled. So no spoilers. Um, and I hope that if you do play it, or if you do watch someone play it, I hope you enjoy it. For now, though, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.